Welcome everybody to RedRaiders.com. I'm Nick Kosmider along with Don Williams here for the Avalanche-Journal. And Don, we've been through 2 weeks now of fall camp. We've seen some different players kind of get their first shot at major college football, and we've also seen a couple different position groups develop and have position battles among them. So let's jump right into it, Don. 2 weeks in, what's kind of stood out to you so far?
Well, I've said for months now, and I said again a couple of weeks ago right when they started camp, that one of the things that was going to be essential for this team was the offensive line had to stay healthy. They've been, for all the injuries that Tech had team-wide the last 2 years, the offensive line has been remarkably almost untouched by that. And I said it's going to be very important for that to be the case this year, because they have the basis for a good starting five, but then behind those guys, no proven depth. And lo and behold, what's one of the key things that's happened in the last 10 days, and that is
some injuries. You
have several guys going out with concussions, including both of your starting guards, Bo Carpenter and LaRaven Clark. And the bizarre is too strong a word, but the very unexpected development with Brian Thomas from the transfer from Texas A&M. You think this is a godsend for this team with no offensive line depth to get a guy who started for 2 years at another Big 12 program, and he shows up. He's not in good shape, and he's had trouble with this acid reflux, and winds up off the team. And really, the story with him is over before it even gets started. And so now, as we sit here, almost a little more than 2 weeks out from a first game, this is a team that might be having a little bit of issues with continuity in the offensive line, just because the only guys who have kind of been there have been Deverett Gallington and Adrian Waddle, as far as people that you're counting on that have experience and that have been involved in pretty much all the practices. You also had Terry McDaniel, one of those other senior starters, out with a concussion for a few days. So the offensive line, if they can get all five guys, all of their first five guys in there and healthy, I think they'll be okay there. But it's going to be important that before the week before the first game, that everybody's there so they can develop some rhythm and some flow. It's a totally different situation than you have at wide receiver, where there are like 19 wide receivers and inside receivers who are all pretty much healthy and battling for spots.
Right. Yeah, one of the most exciting positions that we had talked about going into fall camp was looking at this receiver group. And on paper, there are so many talented guys who have either had success elsewhere or who had already had success at Tech. A lot of talented guys battling for a few positions. So the excitement was to see kind of who was going to separate themselves, who was going to step up in those first 10 or so days of practice. And we've seen a few guys do that. Namely, as you wrote about earlier this week, Don, Javon Bell, transfer from a junior college in Mississippi, has been head-turning in practice, to say the least. He's often the guy beating the secondary down the field on deep routes. As he said, he can also catch the ball in the middle of the field and make defensive backs miss, and he's proven that ability. And then you have the great battle behind Eric Ward at that spot with Marcus Kennard and Derek Edwards, and it seems like each day one of those guys is kind of playing a game of I saw what you can do, now I'm going to do it better.
They kind of go back and forth.
Right.
One guy makes a great play one day and one guy a great play the next.
Right. They've both been doing that, so that's been a really intriguing battle. And then you have the two small guys inside, Jakeem Grant and Javaris McCroy, and we saw already sort of the versatility those two can have in the backfield, taking balls on the fly sweep reverses where they get the ball from the quarterback as they go in motion. They're also great at catching the ball in the middle of the field. So we're just seeing so many different weapons at the receiver position. And then you have returners. Darren Moore's had a solid camp already. You have guys you didn't expect, like Jordan Davis, who has come in, or who was redshirting last year. So that position has been, I think, what coaches expected. They knew they had talent there, and it seems like there's no shortage of guys each day who are kind of waiting to step up. And now, Don, that kind of brings us to the big unit that we always everybody's been talking about since the end of last year in defense. How have you seen that group develop since camp started a couple weeks ago?
It's hard for me to make a whole lot. I don't want to make a whole lot of judgments until they actually do it on the field on a Saturday when the season starts. We did, though, see Wednesday of the second week just yesterday as we're filming this, the defense actually had a very good scrimmage over at Jones AT&T Stadium. Now the first team didn't go a whole lot of snaps. They were primarily looking at the backups, but those first 2 or 3 series, it was ones against ones, and the first team defense got the number 1 offense off the field, 3 and out. Then second series, it was 3rd and 7. Trey Porter comes up with an interception, and over the course of the scrimmage, we also saw some people in the defensive front make some plays. Particularly, they were working on situations, and in one instance, it was goal line defense where they were snapping the ball over and over from about the 4-yard line, and continually the defense kept stepping up and making big plays. You saw guys like Donnell Wesley breaking through, getting a touch sack. Blake Dees breaking through, getting a touch sack. Someone else, I'm forgetting who, but you had 4 times in 5 plays the defense made plays in the backfield inside its own 5-yard line. So there are, at least it looks like, not only starters, but also some of the second team guys are making pretty good cases for playing time this year.
We'll continue to see more of those battles here as the next 2 weeks go on, leading up to that September 1st home opener. Keep it locked on to RedRaiders.com and LubbockOnline.com for photos, videos, and stories. For Don Williams, I'm Nick Kosmider, and have a great day.